Welcome to the Crazy Agent Dinner Party, where we dish on this crazy industry known as real estate. Here are your hostesses with the mostesses, a combined 40 plus years in real estate, Coach Konversion Kourtney, and the real estate mom you never knew you needed, Amanda, the marketing mama. On today's menu, we are dishing up Measure to Manage.
That's right, Jenny, our trusty sidekick, because guess what, y'all? If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And that's the facts, Jack. So, real estate agents, hey, y'all, hope you had a great week out there. We are so happy that you can join us here every week where we have, part group therapy and, of course, part inspiration, hopefully. But all of this is entirely for you and us real estate agents so that we can, talk about the real life real estate, hopefully sell some more real estate and have way more fun doing it. So, speaking of measuring things, I'm going to ask you a question. I'm going to see if I'm going to get an honest answer from Konversion Kourtney here. So, I ask agents this all the time, by the way, and I always get the same answer. If I were to ask you how many of your sphere of influence contacts that you can convert or do convert, what is the percentage?
I don't know.
You don't know? Well, thank you for once. Agent that gives me an honest answer. I will tell you, most agents will say, well, I can convert 99% of my sphere of influence. And then guess what happens? We're like having lunch and they talk about how their friend just bought a house with somebody else. And the reason that they do that is because, again, they're not really making a concerted effort, number one, to ask for the business, or number two, to really, if you're considering somebody in your sphere of influence, which to me, that is somebody that you're going to say, I am going to make a regular, concerted, timely, scheduled, intentional, systematic effort to reach out to them. And again, it doesn't always have to be like, you want to buy a house? You want to sell a house? You want to buy it? It's literally like, hey, I love real estate. And if you need to know anything about it, I'm here to help you do it, right? Yeah. Or just make those connections, because obviously if you owned a pizza shop, right? Like you'd be like, come into my pizza shop. Oh, I love a pizza shop right now, honestly. I'm so hungry.
I love this because you're so passionate about this.
I am, yeah.
Numbers aren't my jam.
Well, this is why, honestly, numbers is why it could take a lot of the chaos out of your life, agents, if you really understood the numbers of it all. Because it's really just math. It's really just, what do you need to make and what do you need to do to get there? And so to me, I think that your sphere of influence is a way easier sell than like a cold call. Sure. But you actually, what did you say like a few episodes ago? You said, what did you say, Jenny?
I would prefer to make a cold call.
Yeah. Really?
And I love my sphere.
Yeah.
I love the people that I've bought and sold homes with.
Of course.
Like,
yeah.
them. And I appreciate them and I follow them and I follow up with them. It's easier for me to make a cold call.
Really? Mm-hmm. I'm always, so what makes me like giddy with delight is when one of my clients that I've closed in the past comes back around or sends somebody around. I literally feel as though my life has purpose. And I know that's because they honestly know that I've got their back. I'm taking care of them. And so, but how do you measure that? How do you know if you can close 99% or 100% of them unless you have that data point? Well, Q, data queen, I'm a nerd for data. Well, really, it's just, you have to, I did it on a spreadsheet and now I use Follow Up Boss. But you do have to actually measure who you're communicating with and make it a part of your regular routine. Because then you can know whether or not you're barking up the wrong tree, right? Like if you keep reaching out to whatever lead source it is. So maybe it's not your sphere of influence. Maybe it's, I don't know, Homes for Heroes, or like what's something that you use, Zillow, whatever.
Yeah, and I look at it like with the amount of agents that we had on our team, we had to know data, right? We had to know how many calls were being made. We're spending a lot of money every single month.
Right.
So we had to know that. And so for the last 3 years, I've been devoted to knowing that.
And understanding the data.
And understanding data. And the conversion rates and the how long it takes to convert internet leads. Like, I get that and I understand it. And the only way to do it, in my opinion, that I can do is through Follow Up Boss and knowing that. And there's another one out there too, Sisu, that's very good too for big teams.
Yeah.
It's important though, especially if we're spending that kind of money on data.
1,000%, because otherwise you're lighting your money on fire. And that's really when you can kind of like demand, I guess, or like if you want to be privy to these leads, then you have to do X, Y, and Z. So you have to know the data so that you know how to negotiate with your team or whoever's going to be calling them. But the reality is with data is that you don't know if you're winning if you don't know what it is, right? And so it starts with that, like even daily to-do list. That's the first data point of your day is who do you need to talk to? Who's like current in queue? Who do you have in queue right now? Who's like mission critical? Who's ready in the next 6 months? Those are like top priority, right? But you should every day, in my opinion, have at least 2 of your sphere of influence that you're reaching out to. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that you are meeting up with them or even calling them, but even like a text or a Facebook message, or if you want to put them in your email newsletter that you do, you should make a concerted effort to connect with your sphere, in my opinion. That's just got to be part of what you do. That's the old Buffini in me. I learned that early on.
And I say that, however, for the last 5 years consistently, Colorado's known for peaches, Palisade peaches.
What?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Colorado's known for peaches, like juicy peaches.
Yeah, Palisade peaches.
Screw you, Georgia. You're nothing compared to Colorado. I'm going to call BS on that. Okay.
No, so
Palisades peaches.
Sphere. So I will put a basket together.
That blows my
like
mind.
5 or 6 of these juicy peaches and do Popeyes. I'll Popeye every year when the peaches come around.
Oh my God.
I'll do Popeyes.
Do you wear like pigtails? That would be super cute. You have a little basket? No.
Basket.
Chips.
Peach chips.
I know.
But so there was a year that there was a fire and there wasn't peaches, and people were calling me for my
They're
peaches.
like, where's the peaches?
Where are my peaches? So I delivered wine
Peaches,
instead.
peaches. Wine delivery.
I got a bottle of wine
That
instead.
is wonderful. Well, I think really when you have a connection with your sphere, with clients, whether again they've worked with you or they refer people to you, you do, or we're in the relationship business, right? And so it is important to still communicate in a way that lets them know, hey, I haven't forgotten about you. And guess what? If you ever need anything having to do with real estate, please don't forget about me. Let me be top of mind. But in general, if you're spending your time, let alone, especially if you're spending money, you really do need to measure your methodology. Otherwise, how do you know if you're winning? It's just arbitrary, right? Like, so you remember we start out with our, like what we need to make annually. And so we know in order to make that, we have to do X amount of calls, Well, so you measure that in your infub. You can see how many calls are made, right? But then when you make all the calls and then none of them turn into whatever, what's your next data point that you're measuring? Well, what am I doing wrong here? Like, I'm making all these calls every day and nothing is converting. So then you know what to work on. You know what skill to like, this is your little tool set that you're like, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to sharpen this skill. I'm going to learn something new. I'm going to focus my attention on being better at what I'm doing. Right. And so that's why, to me, every single little thing is a little tiny data point that you have to analyze and change, pivot, as you said many moons ago, because it's really important. Otherwise, you're just pretending to be a real estate agent. You know, you actually have to sell houses in order to make that happen.
We talk about buyers being defeated. Agents get defeated, right?
Well, especially if they're doing a lot of work and it's not resulting in anything. But that's why it's not work that you need to be doing. It's intentional effort to your goals through, in my opinion, systems and proven methodology. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, you could always reinvent the wheel if you wanted to, or even just build a better mousetrap. Like, isn't that the thing? Like, oh yeah, I was with a team or a company that did it this way, but I found what works for me is X, Y, or Z. That's exciting. I like that kind of stuff. But you never know if you're winning unless you write it down and you can measure what you're doing. Because the other thing too, so as far as budgeting goes, again, time or money, what if, like, every year your PTA asks you for, I don't know, $800 worth of whatever it is, like a basket here, a donation here, and you account that for your marketing efforts for your job, and yet 5th year of PTA and you have closed 0 buyers.
Yeah.
Or sellers, whatever. And so I believe that you should track it. Otherwise, you're just, that should be listed as a charity donation then on your tax return rather than a marketing dollar. So again, there's like, it's very layered in measuring data points or whatnot, right? So my daily measure is my daily checklist. Weekly measure, again, you probably do it for yourself, but also for your team, how many calls they're making, how long those calls are lasting. What was your sort of like solvent for if they were making the calls but they're not turning any of the leads? Like, how did you remedy that?
Then it's go back in and listen to the leads.
Okay. So you record
calls.
it?
Yeah. In Follow Boss, you can record it.
I know. I just always think that it feels like weird to do that.
No, I love it because it's a coaching experience, right?
I get that.
And in Zillow, I mean, we were spending a lot of money in Zillow. We don't anymore. It's they have ChatGPT that goes in and it records like the first 10 seconds of it. And so it's like if they're not using the line, then we don't have the percentage with Zillow. So for me though, I like to listen to the phone calls so that I can help coach them. How could they do things different?
Right.
And if they aren't closing any deals, then I want to be able to coach them on that.
Yeah. Well, and you're very good at doing that. So, okay. So you have your weekly measurement, then you got your monthly, right? And that just basically you're tying it all into like how it's progressing along. What I think is really vitally important is, remember we talked about when you're working with buyers or sellers, their when do they want to buy or sell? Well, that's why you have to track it, because if somebody says that they want to buy or sell in 1 to 3 months and it's month 3 and you're not near a closing table, then what are you doing? What have you been doing, right? And like, I know it sounds like really common sense, but like, doesn't that happen to where you're like, okay, I met this really great people. We had a great conversation. I even showed them property. We saw 8 houses. I spent that Saturday with them. And then they ghosted me. You know what usually happens? You ghosted them. You're not doing the steps that you need to do. And then guess what? You're also not following up, because we know that the fortune is in the follow-up, and then you're not measuring on a weekly or monthly basis. And so therefore it doesn't even come to your head to follow back up, because you're not tracking what you're doing, right? Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely
like that's
right.
1,000% it. And then they're like,
and a lot of agents don't track what they're doing.
It's just willy-nilly. It's literally winging it. And what happens when you wing it? You turn into a reactionary Chicken Little. And so that's why I think measuring is important, because it's a business. It's not just a hobby, unless it is a hobby for you. And then, yeah, you can wing it, because who cares, right? If you're just doing it for fun, and then, I do it for fun, but I also do it as a business, because I think it's awesome that you can make money with selling houses, because it's super fun and I love learning all about
Changing people's lives, right? Like, that's what
absolutely change their lives. Like, across the board, absolutely. Yeah. And then again, same thing with the quarterly measuring of it all. So really, for me, the best part about measuring is that it makes what you're doing specific. It's not arbitrary. It's exactly what you're doing every day, day in and day out. Otherwise, why do it? Like, because you think it's fun? Sure, that's definitely a good reason to do it. But especially if you're not independently wealthy, or if you have a family or anybody else that's depending on you, they're going to be like, why are you doing this if you're not making any money, right? Hence why measuring is vitally important. So for you and your lead system, how often do you measure?
So when I had my team, we would measure monthly.
Okay.
That's what we'd go through the leads, go through the closings, and then we started dialing it back to the lead sources and when they came in and when they closed.
Right.
And so like that was huge, because then we now knew, where do we want to put our money?
Right.
Because is it going to be a lead source from Google that closes 12 to 18 months out? Or is it going to be a Zillow lead who is closing like within 60 days?
You know what I find fascinating, especially with like the change and shift in how online leads went, I would say like rogue a bit, like, right? Like it used to be not as bananas as it has been lately. So I think for the weekly virtual to-go box, I think it would be really beneficial if you guys all took a look at the marketing wheel. The marketing wheel is like literally the wheel that makes your business go around. And so really take the time to measure what you've been doing thus far this year, or maybe you take what you did last year and put all your lead sources in there. And then how many closings did you have for those lead sources? How many referrals did you have from the lead source? Because sometimes just getting the phone to ring is the win, right? You can't always like close the deal, but all you really need is for people to think of you for all things real estate and keep sending you business. Because guess what? Sometimes it doesn't have to do with real estate. Maybe it has to do with their credit or financing or a death in the family or a job relocation or whatever. But when it comes to, the person that they think of for real estate, they think of you. So that is a win, because that's going to help you really focus on the people that you really need to focus on. I personally think it's, like I said before, it's a lot easier to market to, or to communicate with people that already know, like, and trust you.
And I agree with you.
Right? Because you can authentically be like, let me help you. Like this, we have fun together. Like, let's sell some real estate and have some fun. That's like I'm not just saying that like arbitrarily. I literally mean that. I think it's super fun to work with people that you like hanging out with. So I think, what do you think? The marketing wheel would be a really good to-go box.
I think that would be great.
I think it's awesome because again, then you're like, why have I been slaving away over at this?
And where am I investing my time in?
Right.
And what's the return on it?
What is the ROI? But guys, I also want you to think about your ROH. Do you know what that is?
No.
That is your return on happiness.
I was going to say hours.
There's no return on hours. Like time is fleeting. Save yourself. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. But no, return on happiness, because I think what's cool about being an entrepreneur is sometimes we just dive into the things of the business that are not necessarily income producing, but they literally make us super duper happy, right? Like Canva doesn't make me any money, but like I love it.
I was gonna say, I know it makes you happy.
I'm obsessed with it. I'm like, let me just make a weird little thing about us. Let's be twins from like, you'll be Arnold and I'll be Danny. Let's do that. Like I make stuff. That's what I do for fun, like a weirdo. That's okay because it makes me happy.
At 2 a.m.
At 2 a.m, or just when I'm driving at a stoplight or whatever. I'm like, you know what? Boop, boop, boop. But that's what I'm saying. ROH and ROI is important because this is your life. You live it for all we know, just the one time. And so do what makes you happy, but do what makes you the income that you need to have to make you not spiral out of control like a crazy Chicken Little, right? Yeah. Do you have a little nugget that you want to like end with, a little bite-sized tidbit about, because I get it, measuring it's time consuming. Oh, I do have one little thing I'm going to say. Part of measuring is also being organized in general. There is a kind of a horrifying stat that says for every hour of organization you save 3 hours of productivity. Like that's great. So like if you're not organized, then you are literally wasting a lot of time, and it really does take just, again, if you use my checklist.
ROH, return on hours.
There's not. There's just not. No, it's just how it goes. But seriously, take that time to measure and to get organized, because otherwise you're just sort of floating around, carefree, crying about your crazy real estate life, right? So what were you going to say? I interrupted you.
Yeah, as far as like the measurement goes, it is, so there's different personality types, right? And so realtors, they like to show homes, they like to open doors, they like that's what we like, right? We don't like, most real estate agents, they don't like the data, they don't like the measuring.
I know, which is so weird because it's literally the way to win it.
It's the key.
It is super the key to winning it. Like
it's the key
because also like, why waste your time? Like, honestly, especially if you have anybody, I don't know about you, Kourtney, and I haven't had anybody barking in my ear in a long time that wasn't like, you go girl, but I know so many agents that half of their week is basically trying to convince somebody that they spend their life with in some capacity that they should still be selling real estate. If one more person says, well, they told me to get a real job, it makes me feel like they're actors a little bit. It's like, no, you can do this. You might not win an Oscar, but you should follow your dreams, type of thing. So to me, I feel like a great way to combat the get a real job of it all is to make it like a real job. Right?
Yeah. I mean,
boom.
That's it. Boom. Bank drop.
Well, again, it is a real job and it's really fun. Yeah. So, and it is... gosh, real estate is crazy.
And we want to thank you guys for submitting your videos, because this helps us. Like, we know what we go through on a regular basis, and we want to help you too.
Yeah.
And continue to submit your videos.
The things that are like making you nuts, like send them over here. Let's talk about it. And again, if you do have another fun off the rails crazy train, please like reach out for those too. We would love to get more people on the craziest of crazy. I think we should start doing those every fourth Wednesday. Like the end of the month is already like an insane explosion. Let's go ahead and just add some comic relief.
And
right?
I did have a request to do the crazy agent dinner party on the road.
Yes.
So,
I think we're going to Nashville first, right?
In Nashville?
Yeah.
Nashville's my favorite.
Oh my God. Honky tonk. I love it.
And so, Jenny, take it away.
So don't forget, we have a weekly virtual to-go box. So if you click the link below, you can get your own version of the marketing wheel to help you measure to manage.
Amen.
Yep.
All right. Remember,
Until next time.
real estate is crazy.
And you don't have to be.